This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Time to talk with Grant Hall. Appreciate his visits here with us on Wednesdays. Grant, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good, man. Good to hear from you. So what's wrong with the Cardinals? Another loss, 5-1 to the Angels. You know, I have to take my pick. That's 4 straight. Losses in 7 of 8. Starting rotations ERA is over 5. It's a mess. I would have never thought that the St. Louis Cardinals would right now be tied for the worst record in the National League with the Colorado Rockies, and it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight right now.
Yeah, 26th in baseball, I think. At least I looked yesterday out of 30 teams. They, on the recent 10-game road trip in which they were 2-8, I think they were outscored by 11 runs. So it's not like they were getting, just obliterated every night, just kind of like a death by 1,000 cuts. And they have some guys, like Goldschmidt's playing well again, hitting over 300, and they're just not putting it together. They're not playing as a team, and of course some in St. Louis are ready for Ollie to get out of there. Others probably for Mozeliak, who didn't really do much with the pitching staff over the off season. But you wonder too about Wainwright not being there. I noticed he was in the dugout last night. Just his presence, I think, is going to help him some. And then he'll be pitching pretty soon. And he has had trouble, I think, getting his velocity back at age 41 after this injury. But that really, his getting hurt there in that international competition didn't help them at all. And I think their lineup is too good to keep scuffling like this. But whether they can get back into it, I don't know.
So you're taking the partial positive route through this. I asked Chuck about it yesterday. He said he was sounding the alarm bells 2 weeks ago. He's already felt like he's given up, and you're just not used to a position like this. I don't know how many years in a row St. Louis has had a winning record, but you get used to it. You'll kind of see the best fans in baseball will be tested this year, won't they? If they keep showing up.
Yeah, and in the midst of all this, of course, Mike Shannon died at age 83, the great broadcaster, and lived his entire life, I guess, in Missouri pretty much. And I can't remember if I've told you this story, Phil, but I told Dave Van Horn after the luncheon Monday, and he appreciated it, I think, and that was that, Frank Broyles recruited Mike Shannon to play quarterback at Missouri when Frank's only year there was 1957, and he was going to go, and then he became a bonus baby, and he signed with the Cardinals. But in that recruiting visit, when Frank visited the house, Shannon's father was a working-class guy, had a T-shirt. The first thing he did was he offered Frank Broyles a beer. And Frank was a teetotaler, and as he told me later, he said, I didn't want to insult him, but I didn't want to. So I looked around, and they had this planter, and Frank when they weren't looking, poured the contents of the beer into the planter. And Shannon told me years later, one time I got to visit with him for about an inning in the booth there in St. Louis when he was off the air. And he told me, he said they never saw anything grow like that planter, that planter after the beer. And they figured out what happened, But he loved, as Dudley Dawson told me the other day, he met him at spring training. He said he never met a stranger. He loved people. And one time he did a function here at Arkansas at the Town Center for the Arkansas baseball program. He was here and had a big time that night. He'll be missed. He just has had such a big personality. But, he's not having to right now watch this 10-20 misery of the Cardinals.
Well, Shannon was a fan while he was on the air. He was a player on he was a St. Louisan on the air as well, but he was a fan on the air too. And I mentioned this the other day. Being from Pittsburgh, I'm not a Cardinals fan. I never heard Mike Shannon do a broadcast until the 90s. I knew Jack Buck from CBS, from when he did CBS television games when they had the Major League Baseball contract. It took a little bit for Shannon to melt into my brain a little. It's an acquired taste because he called the game in a unique way that only he called it. But once you started getting used to it, it was fun. It was a lot of fun because I can appreciate people that are institutions of a city. and root their team on. Like, you don't necessarily have to be just like a down the middle kind of a broadcaster. It's okay to show emotions, to make it really seem like you want that team to win because you breathe and bleed Cardinal red. And, man, I mean, it's like we would all want that kind of life like Mike Shannon had, because just right a corner, a block away, he had his own bar and restaurant. He'd hold court there, man. It's like a perfect life.
Phil, I didn't know this, but I'd heard the other day that Jack Buck is the guy who, after Shannon had to end a 9-year playing career because of a kidney condition, he spent a year in the front office and was not comfortable there, and so Buck told him, he said, just turn him over to me. I'll make a broadcaster out of him. And when he first started, he was pretty rough, but he would say things like, I remember he would talk about how when he moved from right field to third base, he said he made a point of everybody that came into third base that year, he tagged them really hard to establish, that he was a hard-nosed third baseman. And just things like that he would add to the broadcast, from having been that player. But he was unique, and they played some highlights of his calls the other day on the Cardinals telecast. And he really was, like, he didn't plan what he would say on the 70th home run by McGuire. And, it just happened, and there was his natural enthusiasm.
Grant, I've been loving some NBA playoffs. You've been able to check it out. Did you check out any of the games last night? Anthony Davis, man, he was a stud. I think the Lakers go the way he goes, and then the Knicks made some plays late. The Heat were kind of in that game. If Jimmy Butler's, it will be interesting to see. I don't think either one of those teams can win it. And then you got Philly and Boston tonight. Who do you like in that series?
I still like Boston. I'm not sure what. By the way, Embiid I saw got Player of the Year, and I don't know what his playing status is going to be. But it's interesting. The Lakers and Warriors had not met in 32 years somehow like this, and so you have obviously the amazing confrontation there, the battle between Steph Curry and LeBron James. And really, you're right about Davis. The other night I think it was Charles Barkley, that they were really getting on Anthony Davis for having a game in which he didn't do very much. And of course, last night, what was he, 30 and 23?
Yeah, he was a beast.
Yeah, I mean, that for teams seeded 6 and 7, that's a pretty good playoff series. I'm sure it'll get the best rating. I would think it would get the best ratings.
Well, it's a contrasting styles where the Lakers lead the NBA in free throw attempts, and the Warriors are last place in free throw. The Warriors are going to shoot 3-pointers. LeBron and AD, that 2-man game and being inside. I mean, Draymond Green maybe 4 years ago could have maybe guarded Anthony Davis, but there's nobody on that Warriors team that can guard AD if he's on.
Yeah, and LeBron is really, as I've watched him here the last couple of weeks, he's
kind of laying back, huh?
Well, he's serious about this thing, though, and he's committed to taking them as far as they can go. And of course, Curry dropped 50 the other night, so that's all you need to say about him.
Yeah, I do love the Warriors. I mean, Andrew Wiggins being the third option on a team, it means it's pretty option with Klay Thompson. The thing was yesterday, Grant, they had 49 shots between Curry and Thompson, and it only equaled 52 points. It's got to be closer to 80 points when they're shooting almost 50 times.
Yeah, and having said what I did about LeBron, I think he's like 6 out of 41 from 3 on his last 5 or 6 games. So there's an area where he can get better.
Grant, I got to ask you about Arkansas baseball. I'd like to forget about last night's game because it really just was a bad baseball game. Poorly played, poorly pitched for the most part. Not a lot of hitting. Lipscomb did their best to try to hand the game to the Hogs and just didn't take it. Does Arkansas have enough pitching right now? We're seeing here Kevin Bohannon is reporting that Dylan Carter had a UCL tear. Dave Van Horn didn't go into details last night, but he said it's not good. UCL tear is one of those things that you would say is not good. So that would mean he's out for the year and probably doesn't pitch next year either. But in the context of the next, you get 3 weeks left of the regular season counting Hoover, and then the NCAA tournament. Hogs are going to play in a regional, and I think that they'll win enough to host a regional. We'll see what happens about being top 8. I'm a little worried if this team has to go to 4 or 5 games in a regional, because I just don't know if there are enough, literally just enough arms to pitch.
Well, Dave said that Monday. He said, a lot of years you'd like to have your midweek guy be available as the fourth pitcher in postseason. But right now they're trying to, although last night, if you just take the innings of Coyle and Morris and Wood and Ledbetter, those guys pitched a total of 9 innings, allowing 0 runs. So, if you'd have known that, you'd have just thrown those 4, and they'd have had a shutout. I mean, that's how the game went last night. They're trying to pitch all these other guys, and some of them didn't do well. So Ledbetter is not on the trip this week, but he pitched 4 scoreless innings last night. His ERA is 7.77, or was, and he has 21 walks and 12 strikeouts. But yet he was good last night and probably trying to prove a point, that he wanted to be on that travel roster. So they until they get all their players back, are not going to look the same. But still, there they are with, as he said Monday, 5th in RPI, I think, in the country. And even the one last night that didn't hurt them that much because Lipscomb was in the top 150, I think. We can talk about playing in Little Rock and all that, but they're the big one is Mississippi State this weekend, and Mississippi State has its own issues. They fired their pitching coach Monday, Scott Foxhall, and they've got an ERA of 6.62, I think. So Arkansas is at least is better than that.
How about Dominic Fletcher? You were texting me about him yesterday. I was following while Arkansas played, and a couple of hits. His first Major League RBI, had a double in his first game in the major leagues, and D-backs are a pretty good team, but I think Dom's got staying power. Didn't Dave say he's going to start? Is it center field today?
Yeah, that was what he said. And then, he's the kid who batted 600. That's his average so far, 3 out of 5 with a walk. He got a nice oppo single yesterday, and he hit a high fastball for a base hit. Got a double his first time up in that first game. And I don't know if they plan to play him every day, but, he played right field last night, and they talk about how Dave said the other day that he got the best reads on the baseball. He's not he probably runs 6'8", 60. He's not the most blazing guy with speed, but you saw him. I mean, Phil, he caught anything out there.
Instincts.
Yeah,
and I mean his throwing arm is like second to none. He's got a great arm.
Yeah, he's got to be taller than 5. Did you say he was 5'6"? I mean,
the
I thought
Baseball
he was
Reference
5'9"
webpage. Yeah, the Baseball Reference webpage has him at 5'6". He's at least a little taller than me, and I'm a little shorter than 5'10". He's a little taller than me, so I think Dom is more like 5'10" and a half. So I don't know who's entering the information at Baseball Reference as far as height is concerned, but they gotta correct that.
Yeah, we got to change that. Right.
Yeah, he's bigger than Jose Altuve. He doesn't look like his elbows are going inside his sleeves, if you know what I mean.
They're playing at 1 o'clock today, and Dave was talking about it. He was kind of kidding, like, was there a way that they could work that side trip into Texas on Wednesday, before the weekend series? I mean, they got enough to say grace over, but he'll be playing here after a while. And one more quick thing, Phil, the men's golf thing comes out here after a while, and I expect Arkansas to be in that group of 81 teams. And the women made it also. They got in for the 21st straight year, I think.
Did you see that Tony Finau and John Rahm? John Rahm had that in the Mexico Open when John Rahm almost shot a 59. He had a chance there, and then Tony Finau was able to hold him off. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Rahm's out of control right now, isn't he? And it's good. Finau's won 4 times in the last 22 months, so good for him.
BetOnline.ag is your #1 source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.